What's up, Marvel fans, and welcome back to Nerd Doc. Moon Knight is finally here, and this video will be explaining episode 1 of the new Disney Plus series. There will be spoilers in this review and recap of the episode. If you do not wish to be spoiled, you can find some of our other Moon Knight coverage linked below, including Who is Moon Knight and What's the Deal with Arthur Harrow. If you're here looking for the main songs in Moon Knight episode 1, while we can't play them here due to YouTube copyright strikes, we can link you to them. The first one that plays while Steven is going to work is A Man Without Love by Engelbert Humperdinck. And while the second one may sound like Big Pimpin from Jay-Z, it's actually Arab Trap Made in Egypt by DJ Kaboo. You can find Spotify and YouTube links to all of these songs linked in the description below. If you have any questions about Moon Knight or any of the characters in the first episode, or just want to share your thoughts on the episode, leave a comment and we'll try to answer any questions as best we can. The first episode of Moon Knight starts with Arthur Harrow placing glass in his shoes before walking around in them. This is similar to many other religious rituals such as self-flagellation and self-mutilation. Arthur is doing this to show penance for his sins. Arthur was once the avatar or vessel of Khonshu and is trying to repent for his time serving the Egyptian god, which he considers to be one of the biggest sins of his life. Most of the first episode of Moon Knight showcases Stephen Grant, who works at the gift shop of the National Art Gallery Museum. One of the women who works there asked Steven about an upcoming date. It actually wasn't Steven who asked her out, it was Marc Spector, but we'll get to him in a bit. Steven often talks to a nearby living statue. This is an actor or performer who paints himself gold and remains as stationary as possible, allowing people to pose for pictures, oftentimes in exchange for tips. This is one way the series signifies that Steven is an awkward loner that doesn't have many friends. He even calls his mom multiple times, but when she doesn't answer, he leaves a lengthy message, another aspect of his loneliness. At night, Steven ties himself to the bed, spreads sand on the ground around his bed, and even tapes his door to ensure he doesn't get out, or at least knows when he's been out and about in what he assumes is an extreme case of sleepwalking at best, or signs he's going crazy at the worst. He'll often find himself waking up in odd locations, not knowing how he got there. He even calls a phone line that helps people stay awake in an effort to avoid these situations. Steven wakes up in the middle of a grassy field in the Alps with no idea what's going on. A voice speaks to him. This is the voice of the Egyptian moon god Khonshu, who speaks to Steven throughout the series. We detail Khonshu in another video linked below, but the god is frustrated that Steven is back. Steven suffers from dissociative identity disorder, meaning he has multiple personalities. Steven is just one of many personalities, with Marc Spector being another personality who is a former mercenary with far superior combat skills. For episode 1, we only see the viewpoint of Steven. That means when he switches to any other personality, we don't get to see what happens, and instead it just looks like Steven blacked out. Steven has a run-in with Arthur Harrow, who we see judging multiple people. When Arthur passes judgment, you can see the scales on his arm move. These are the scales of justice from the Egyptian underworld, powered by the Egyptian goddess Ammit, also known as the Devourer of the Dead. Arthur currently serves Ammit. If you're ever going to sin in your life, the scales of justice will reveal this to Ammit and in turn to Arthur. Even if you haven't sinned yet, Ammit knows that you will eventually sin at some point in your life. If it is determined that you will sin, Arthur kills you using the small bit of power Ammit has graced him with. The first person in this scene is judged to be good, so Arthur doesn't kill him. The elderly woman who's up next is judged to be a sinner. Even though she's unaware of any sins that she has committed, Arthur can see in the future and determines that she will eventually commit sin. Arthur then kills her on the spot. A tattoo of the Scales of Justice can be seen on the wrist or forearm of those who are loyal to Arthur and Ammit. Arthur is trying to free Ammit so she can pass judgment on the world. Arthur is trying to change the world by getting rid of anyone who has, or ever will, commit sin. If Arthur can free Ammit, who has basically been imprisoned by some of the other Egyptian gods, she will judge everyone on Earth and immediately kill anyone who will ever sin in their lifetime, whether they have committed that sin yet or not. Arthur justifies this by claiming Ammit would have killed Hitler and other similar people long before they could do any harm. Marc has stolen a jeweled scarab that Arthur needs in order to find the location of Ammit's tomb. Once he has that location, he can go to her tomb and free the goddess. When Arthur asks for it back, Steven tries to give it to him, but Marc is able to move their body just enough to prevent Arthur from taking it, much to Steven's dismay. After a riveting chase sequence that flashes back and forth between Steven and Marc, Steven wakes up in his flat back in London and thinks everything was just a dream. However, he notices that his goldfish now has 2 fins, when before it only had a single fin. The original goldfish actually died because Marc didn't feed it since he was traveling to and from the Alps during the last 2 days. Marc tried to replace it so Steven wouldn't notice, but the pet shop didn't have another 1-fin goldfish, so he got what he could find. Steven heads back to the same pet shop, unaware that Marc was also recently there, and has a confusing conversation with the staff due to the fact that from their point of view, Steven and Marc are the same person. Steven later tries to go on a date that was set up by Marc, or possibly even by the third personality in their body, but Steven soon realizes that it's been several days and he already missed his date. He returns home and soon discovers a phone and a key to a storage room hidden within his flat. Steven sees that the phone has a number of missed calls from someone named Layla, so he calls her back only to find that she thinks he's Marc. Layla is the MCU version of Marlene Alhauner. In the comics, Marlene was Marc Spector's wife. This was likely changed in the Disney Plus series in order to make her Egyptian and tie everything back into Egypt, unlike the comics where she's of German descent. Steven also sees the name Duchamp in the phone, who is Jean-Paul Duchamp, Marc's pilot in the comics. He's also connected to one of Moon Knight's comic book adversaries, Bushman. Steven soon hears another voice in his head, but it's not Khonshu. This time it's Marc Spector, one of his other personalities. The other personalities inside their body are able to more easily converse when there's a mirror or some sort of reflection nearby. Steven sees Marc in his bathroom mirror before having an encounter with Khonshu and eventually seeing Arthur Harrow on his bus to work. Arthur corners Steven in the museum, where several of the employees are loyal to Arthur and Ammit. Arthur tries to pass judgment on Steven, but he can't because of all the chaos inside him, unknowingly referring to his multiple personalities, as well as the fact that his mind is also somewhat complicated by the presence of Khonshu. Arthur eventually lets Steven go, but Steven has to stay late at the museum taking inventory. This is where Arthur unleashes the power of Ammit by sending a mystical jackal after Steven in order to reclaim the Scarab. Steven and Arthur are the only people who can see the creature, similar to how Steven is the only person who can see Khonshu. The jackal chases Steven into the bathroom, where Marc uses the mirrors to speak with Steven and convince him to allow Marc to take over their body. Steven is extremely confused, not knowing what's real and what's just in his head. He even thinks that he may be going crazy, but eventually lets Marc take over, who immediately summons the Moon Knight suit and makes quick work of the jackal as the episode comes to an end. That wraps up this video. We'll have coverage of each episode of Moon Knight, as well as extensive coverage of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness coming soon. Once again, if you have any questions or just want to share your thoughts on the episode, feel free to leave a comment below. And if you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone who loves Marvel and Moon Knight.